Today it's 1 hour webinar, and we have our guest speaker with us, Claude May, who will share a headhunter perspective or recruiter perspective to building personal brands and taking ownership of your career.
And I will also mention that, so please introduce yourself in the chat, really, like Elena mentioned, and take our webinars and this event particularly as an opportunity to network also. So you will be able to see who else is present at the webinar, and you never know if connecting with people, you can create something great together or find partners or create opportunities for each other. So I think
exactly now we are in a remote mode, therefore networking opportunities are limited. So use this chance, and we will talk about it later on about visibility and networking, the importance for building personal brands and take ownership of your career. So please don't hesitate to introduce yourself, where you're from, and what is your position or job title in the chat.
This is our agenda. So during 1 hour today, we will be covering different points of how to build strategically your personal brand and what is the headhunter perspective on what should be done really if you're looking for a new job and how to build your career plan successfully. So we would like Claude to introduce himself, please.
Perfect. First, thank you very much for getting the opportunity to speak and to discuss this very interesting topic with you. I'm Claude May. I'm Luxembourgish, living and working in the small little Luxembourg. I studied psychology, so I studied psychologist, but then ended up in recruitment some 8 years ago. Always having worked on permanent recruitment. What's brought me to it was really the human aspect of recruitment, because I think sometimes this is something that unfortunately stays a bit on the track during the recruitment processes, and more now we see that also processes and recruitment gets automized, digitalized. And I think what is very, very important, this is like my psychology background speaking, is that, I think the human stays still in the center of it. And I hope we can relate it later on also to the personal branding part, because there is also some quite interesting connections. I worked for nearly 8 years in a listed UK recruitment company, also here in Luxembourg, mostly on the finance market, on all kind of profiles, and joined recently, so beginning of this year, started 1st of February, in a new company, so Halian, an IT services company, and I got hired with one of my former colleagues to develop a new branch, which is focused mainly on permanent recruitment. And just to make the link to this webinar and to the personal branding, actually, as I said, we are starting and developing this business from scratch. So we don't have any corporate branding on that part at the moment, but we are still, we are already, let's say, starting quite well, and this is mainly linked also to the personal brand that we built on the market, both of us working 8 years on one specific market, and I think this part of personal branding helped us a lot to get this, let's say, early start, and I hope that the corporate branding part will follow soon too.
Yeah, thank you very much, Claude, for your introduction.
Yeah, thank you. And I see people still joining us. So for those who just joined, please introduce yourself in the chat.
I will introduce myself.
Yeah, go ahead. I have some works.
My name is Marina. I am a co-founder together with Elena of Top Expert Brand Accelerator, and we help leaders, executives, entrepreneurs, business owners to build their personal brand and visibility to really stand out in the market and become open to new amazing professional opportunities. I have more than 20 years of experience, mostly in finance and banking. And I was honored to be featured here in the book in Barcelona, Outstanding Biographies of Our Women Entrepreneurs, because since 2015, I have been building and growing my own business. And now with Elena, we are building and growing our business, Top Expert Brand Accelerator. And I have also co-authored a best-selling book series, The Power of Why, that we published in 2020 on Amazon. I speak at different events, both online and offline. Together with Elena, I will mention that here we lived in many different countries, we speak many different languages, and I personally work with our clients worldwide in English, Spanish, and Russian daily.
Yeah, no, it's a bit quiet. Sorry, I can introduce myself as well. So I'm co-founder as Marina, Top Expert Brand Accelerator company, and I'm executive coach focusing on leadership development and building brands for leaders. And I'm working as well here in ESA Business School in Barcelona, doing mentoring and facilitating programs. I used to be a headhunter in the past, and before that, I'm really coming from corporate background. I used to work in multinational companies like Danone and Microsoft in 5 different countries. And yeah, as Marina mentioned, for me, it's 5 countries and 5 languages. And here we are a very international team combining a lot of experience, and hopefully we'll share it today with you.
Yes, and all that we present at our webinars, all that we present in our programs, to a great extent is based on our own experience with Elena, as well as on the experience of our clients, and on our experience building our own brands in different industries and in different countries and in different cultures. So our approach that we bring to the market on personal branding is really the universal one.
Hands-on.
Yes, hands-on.
From experience. Okay, so yeah, let's maybe start with a brief definition, because in order to answer the question how to build personal brand, we would like to define what it is, because a lot of people would understand it differently. And maybe the most common definition of personal brand we can hear coming from Jeff Bezos, who says that personal branding is what people say about you when you are not in the room. We would challenge this definition, because I think maybe he refers more to the reputation, because personal branding is more about your visibility. So there is, of course, part of reputation inside it, and we'll talk about it later on. But we see it as how much your expertise and knowledge is recognized outside of your circle of influence or circle of people whom you know personally. Because if we look at this brief timeline, in the past, people would be evaluated by their expertise, so-called expertise world, what you know. Then we moved to network world. It was about who you know. So now, in the current times, and specifically accelerated by COVID, we are in online world where it's matter who knows you. And this is really the difference maybe between this approach of connecting one by one, because it's still limited how many people you can meet in person, to the online influencing, and we'll discuss it in the details, who knows you, what you do, what you are standing for, what is your professional expertise, so people can address to you directly, even without you ever met them or being introduced to them. Mm-hmm. Claude, maybe anything to add here, how you see the personal branding from your perspective?
No, I totally agree with you. Actually, it's quite interesting to see this whole evolution that happened over the last years. Yeah, going from just like this expertise, the field in which you were good, and then the part where I think also a lot active is in the networking, meeting people outside, going to events and stuff like this. And then now a quite interesting challenge, because everything becomes more online. But at the same time, I think we also have like a huge flood of information, and this makes it even more challenging to build a personal brand and to stand out. So it's quite interesting time. There's like some parts that makes it easier to connect to people. You don't have to meet up in a physical location. You can just connect to everyone everywhere. But at the same time, you have to stand out a little bit out of the crowd, and I think that's where personal branding actually plays a very, very important role.
By the way, talking about networking, I still see people connecting. So for those who just connected, please introduce yourself in the chat. We use this opportunity to network online when physical networking is limited. Use this webinar as a chance to connect with new people. So please introduce yourself.
Yes, and I will just comment briefly on what Claude just mentioned about the challenges of this new reality. And this is really what we see from people with whom we work, from participants of our program. When they come to our programs, they really see it as a challenge to start communicating really their message in a strategic way online, because people may have huge experience, but it's so difficult to really formulate those targeted messages that will arrive to the targeted audience and that will help you to complete and to reach your professional goals. So we work really a lot on that, because precisely to help people to overcome this challenge that appeared recently with the new reality that we have.
And here we can maybe even go to this round table more and briefly introduce the benefits we see personal brand can give to your career. There are maybe some obvious ones and less obvious, so let's mention them.
Mm-hmm. Claude, maybe we invite you first. So from your headhunting perspective, how does a strong personal brand benefits your career?
I think there are definitely several parts where it can influence. It's first, let's say, on the more personal part for yourself. I think creating a personal brand is a quite interesting exercise, and definitely not an easy one, because, as you say, I think you have to be able to first define what you want to stand for, and this already requires a lot of work. I know in the past when I tried to apply for jobs, and I had a CV already, just building up a CV and knowing when I was a junior what can I put into it, how do I phrase it, and how do I make it stand out, was a quite tough exercise. And when it comes to a personal brand, I think the exercise gets even more complicated, because you have to first define what you are, what you want to stand for, and include also your passion for it. But also there's another part, is like you have to look a bit further, because when you create a personal brand, of course you do it now, but you do it on a longer perspective. You build something up for the future. This is why I find it interesting to link it to a career. It's similar to building a career plan. You just define where you are at the moment, and you define where you want to be, and you set different steps in order to get to that part. And I think this exercise itself already can benefit you a lot. First, just for your own professional identity, but also on the other side, if you're job searching, if you pass interviews and so on, it sounds like an easy question to describe yourself, to define who you are, But actually, I think there is like, it is a question that can make a huge impact if you manage to do this concise and in a well-structured way. And I think there, the exercise of personal branding already gives you a huge added value, and it helps you exercise for this, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely, Marina. Maybe we can actually move to the next slide where we define those two important parts Claude just mentioned, because each brand, the process of building the brand consists from two main parts. And the first one, that's what was described by Claude, is formulating the brands. And only once you formulate it, then you go to communication part, meaning spreading the word, start to post, write your own content. And many people skip this formulation part and they go directly to communicating on LinkedIn, share some maybe articles or posts. But really what is important to be clear, define your vision, as said Claude, because it's a process of building brands. So you go from point A to point B. So you need to be clear what your point B is at the top of your shape of career, where you would like to go, how it would look like. So this is the vision. Once you're clear with that, then you start formulating your past experience and expertise, combining with what is interesting for you, where you would like to go. And all that you package in one message. And by the way, in our program, we'll mention later on building personal brand, we work with 13 components of formulating the brand. So we really take into account not only your experience and expertise, but your strengths, your personality type, maybe your particularities, and we formulate the unique value proposition, because unique value proposition, that what makes you to stand out and differentiate yourself from others.
Yes, and we even consider such a thing as your interests, because sometimes on the basis of interest, you can really build very fruitful and interesting relations, and you can find easier access. I don't know how to headhunters, but for example, for business partners, for clients, it really works. And at some of our previous webinars, we gave examples how it happened in our life, that through common interests, we could connect to the people to whom usually you wouldn't connect, you know, through sports, through doing certain activities and all those interests that one person may have. And as Elena mentioned, all those 13 elements of personal brand, or we call it personal brand map in our program, they really help you to highlight your authenticity and who you are, professionally and personally. And then you go to that communication part when you strategically build your message, and you build your message for different types of audiences, because even I think when you are looking for a job, your audience is not only a headhunter, Claude. It can be also potential employers. It can be also some people, some influencers in your field who can actually connect you to the necessary headhunting agency, or to, I don't know, maybe even to direct employer. Yes, that's why when you start communicating yourself, when you start delivering those messages, you really need to be very strategic, because you never know who is watching you. And it's not only a headhunter who pays attention to what you post on social media. So this formulation part is really very important, to be then strategic at your communication.
Mm-hmm. And here we received a question from one of the participants up front to the webinar. The question was how to create a positive personal branding and increase my connection. I think those two are key for a successful career. And maybe there is a key word here, positive, because what we notice, sometimes people see personal branding as a self-promotion campaign, is a PR, and they have sometimes negative connotation, but it's not absolutely the case, because I think nowadays it's a set of skills, and Claude will talk about it later, about the set of transferable skills we can build along with building the brand. And then we create the ability to spread our positive message, what we believe in, what we're passionate about, what good we want to bring to the world. And personal brand equip us with the tools or skills, how to connect with people, how to engage them into the conversation, how to network, connect, basically spread the greatness you have in yourself. It's not, even if we look at it from leadership perspective, it's not a self-promotion campaign, but a leadership skill. So how you influence your close circle of your team, for example, and how you influence people outside of organization through conveying your ideas and engaging. Like we now talk about extended enterprise. So it's people who are your customers, who are your partners, suppliers, collaborators, freelancers, working for consultants, and so on and so forth. So this is a skill to engage and become influential.
Mm-hmm. And also, I want to mention one thing we have here on the slide about strategic and spontaneous approach to building a personal brand, because very often happens, like, for example, Yelena mentioned in the beginning of this event, that people, when they think about that they need to become visible so that recruiters find them, that potential employers find them, they just start communicating on social media without working on that formulation part, without taking time to think really deep. Okay, who am I? What are my goals? What I want to reach, and how I can do that strategically. And in this case, you are creating a spontaneous personal brand that sometimes not even will give you benefits and good, but may harm you, because without having a strategy on how you need to position yourself, and how you want to project your message to your target audience, you can really start posting, about this and that, explaining here and there. You will not find strategically precisely the touch point where your target audience is. And then what will happen? First of all, your message will not be concise and clear. Your message will not be targeted at your audience who needs to hear that. It may happen that your goals will not be reached because you don't have that strategic communication, and this can be the problem then. And it can really take you, I don't know, quite a lot of time so that you get noticed, so that people understand, and this is really very important, that people understand what you are about, what value can you give to the company, what value can you give to the team, what is your professionalism, competencies, etc., etc. But when you do that strategically, when you really at least take this strategic approach, like you see on this slide, first formulate using those components that we mentioned with Yelena, and only then communicate, then it really minimizes the time that you spend on all that and maximizes your impact. And we hear that a lot from people who participate in our programs, that because in our program, for example, in the Top Expert Brand Mastermind program, we spend half of the program formulating, testing the message, and crafting your personal brand map, and only then people go and start communicating. And we always hear that, yes, this is the part that we are missing. And people see how difficult it is, because we have this in the mastermind format, and people get feedback from their peers, and their peers are normally senior professionals who are either CEOs, executives, etc., and they can give that valuable feedback. So they really understand that there is a strategy behind, and it needs to be done in the strategic way.
So Claude, go ahead. I see you would like to add something, and I have a question to you as well.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to add, to jump on this, because I totally agree with this differentiation between the strategic and the spontaneous approach. And I think if we link it a bit to our topic, if you want to take your career into your own hands, you need this strategic approach. It's like building your brand, it's like building your career and thinking about where you want to go. It helps you afterwards to be able to communicate around it, of course. It helps you to be concise when your future employer, your company, or just at a networking event, someone asks you, what do you want to stand for? Where do you want to go in your career, or whatever? It helps you to give a concise answer to it. And then there is the second part that you said, sometimes with this spontaneous approach, when you just start at one point in time to be super visible everywhere, sharing a lot at one point of time, and then afterwards it stops again, or there has never been something before. Actually, when we look at it from the perspective of a recruiter or an employer, or even a person, let's say, in your domain of expertise who wants to connect with you, actually, there are some question marks popping up on why is she doing this like this? Why is there no consistency in it? And I think this approach is really challenging, and I think people need a lot of support, especially also on this, on finding the right balance between posting, being visible, but not over exaggerating it out of fear that it's not visible, but building it like in a consistent way. Because at the end, building a brand, building a career is hard work. You should build it around a passion, about an interest. And so it will anyways be consistent if you are yourself. So there is no need to force it. And if you force it, there is the risk that it's perceived, how would I say, as desperate, or that it can be perceived as like, I want to be visible here, see me. And it can have, let's say, just the opposite effect of what you want to reach with your brand or with your visibility that you want to create.
And
maybe, very good point. Yeah, I just wanted to ask the question to audience. Please put to the chat what challenges you are facing in building your brand, maybe in formulation part or in communication. So what is the most difficult for you? And then we can go through that. Yeah.
I exactly wanted to say the same. So that our audience, yes, share with us when it comes to building.
Yes, and I have a question to Claude while you are sharing in the chat. So Claude, as a headhunter, do you Google a candidate, and would you check, for example, the profile across different social media, for example, LinkedIn or Facebook?
Yeah. Actually, what I think for most of my colleagues is it's the same, and I know people from other headhunters do that too. The first tool is of course LinkedIn. This is my first approach. I have a look at the activity of the people. What do they share? What are their interests? What do they follow? So a screening also of the LinkedIn profile, just to get an impression about the person, and then also, if you said, to find some common topics and interest, and see if everything is also consistent and aligned. And then from time to time, I also do background checks on Google. Just Google the background. If there are any doubts on anything in the process, it can be that the background check goes a bit further. I don't spend too much time on it, let's say, in the beginning of the process, but I like to have, let's say, just a more global impression, because when you receive a CV of a person, or before you want to connect to a person, you have to get a first impression, and this is what gives me this first impression. The LinkedIn profile, of course, because I spend most of my time, or I think the most efficient tool at the moment is LinkedIn with LinkedIn Recruiter. So if you are looking for a job, if you want to build a professional brand, your LinkedIn profile has to be well organized, consistent, and then afterwards also a short background check, let's say, on other social media. But this is just like more sporadically. The most important for me is really the LinkedIn part and the professional part, what people are building up there, what people are following, what people are sharing, and the activity that they may have there.
So any examples, I understand that it's all confidential, but maybe any examples of this check when you saw something and then it was kind of red flag for the candidate, or downgraded somehow the profile of candidates?
Yeah, Actually, I might have two concrete examples where I was working with a candidate, but it's like I think already 2 or 3 years ago, when not even a bit more. It's like a person who didn't have a LinkedIn profile, or a person who had just a name on LinkedIn, and then I think the job title, but nothing else, which is on first sight doesn't give the best impression. But when I looked up the person on Google afterwards, I found a company, not a company page, a personal website for the person that was quite well developed, and it was a legal profile, and it was like a person that was doing in his it was her, in her spare time at that time, some activities for associations, so outside of the professional. So this gave a very good impression, and this is what we used later on in the interview process. This is definitely something that is interesting. And maybe an example of background checks where it's like a kind of alarm bells is when you go and you have a LinkedIn profile that is okay, but you do the Google search afterwards and you find, let's say, party pictures on Facebook or on other social media. But when I say party pictures, it's not like you're standing there with a glass of champagne in a networking event, but I think some kind of, let's say, more
heavy party. Okay.
And this is something where at least you have to clarify with the person and openly discuss it, because you can nearly be sure that at some point the future employer might also have a look at this, and it might be better to address this from the beginning.
Okay.
I will mention two things here, because first of all, I totally agree with Claude about the importance of creating that clarity and strategic appearance, let's say on LinkedIn. And for example, in our program, we spend the whole module giving the up-to-date working now tips to help you after the formulation part, after spending half of the program formulating your brand, precisely to become visible in the very good sense, from the very good view, on LinkedIn. And what Claude mentioned also about Facebook, we have a separate, for example, module again when we work on other social media, and there we share tips on how to hide actually those pictures from the party and make them visible only to your friends, your family, or whoever needs to see them. So in case if somebody from the professional point of view is searching for you on other social media, then you don't create that, let's say, not negative, but, not relevant to your professional life image. Because even among connections of your friends and family can be people who may want to contact you from professional point of view. You never know about this. So you need to be very strategic about how you use social media, not only for delivering your message, but also for how you and for whom, how you appear. And this is very important.
But this is, I think, also important that you actually adapt your image or your brand to the different channels. There's no need on Facebook or on Instagram to be in a suit and a tie.
Absolutely.
On every picture. I think we are working with humans, and this is what also shows who you are when you look on Facebook. Exactly. And you get outside of this formal professional LinkedIn part, and you see the people with their friends, with their family, maybe also during their holidays sitting on the beach with a cocktail or whatever. But it should be in some way stay, let's say, so that you could present it to a public. It's like it stays public. It's visible for everyone in that case, if you don't put it in private. So I think that's one part that's very, very important.
Yeah, very good. So yeah, let's move. And while we let's move to the next slide. And we are still waiting your comments about what are for you maybe difficult or challenging in building your personal brands and moving your career with the help of brand by being visible. Here we wanted to say a few words about where thought leadership is standing in personal brand, because we see very often in LinkedIn, people mention themselves as thought leaders in the field. And since it's relatively new, we have opinion leaders or influencers and thought leaders. There's sometimes misalignment what it is. And here we just wanted to say that thought leadership is a kind of part of the brand, but it's really a tool which help you to bring your own ideas in the area of your expertise. So those thought leaders in the field, this is really the elite. This is to go experts in your niche. They are, of course, on the front line of the all searches if company wants to headhunt someone who is an expert, so they are go-to people. And actually what differentiates them, besides that they formulate their brand and they're visible, they have their own ideas. For example, if you work for the company and you're an expert in something, becoming a thought leader is really developing through the thinking process and involving others in this process. What are your points of view on specific, maybe topics, narrow topics in the area of your expertise? What is your point of view of the latest trends, maybe, or controversial topics in your field? How you see that? What is your positioning? What is your ideas behind? So actually, thought leadership is maybe the next level in formulating your brand, when you formulate those ideas around your expertise and you involving others. And here, to then become a thought leader who known by people, then you go to communication and influencing. And here I wanted to ask Claude about those transferable skills, because when you communicate, when you convey your ideas and you involve people, you exercise the skill of connecting, convincing, engaging, influencing. So what is, I think nowadays, very popular skill in high demand, I mean, in a job search.
Yeah, but I think there are two main parts. So it's the parts of the thought, of the expertise, of the technical aspects. So you are a leader in your domain, you know what you're doing, you work in that domain for a certain time, and you are bringing ideas. So let's say the more theoretical part, but also the leadership part. So the bringing these ideas into action, the daring to do the move from talking the talk to walking the walk. And by this also inspiring, influencing the people around you directly in your company, but also inspiring other experts in the domain, as you say, where you can network, when you meet people that challenge you on your ideas. And this is how you grow even further in that role of thought leader. But as you say, there are some kinds of transferable skill sets that already existed before, but who are combined in this concept of thought leadership. I think what comes here is really this part of communication that is important. So communicating about your idea. Of course, you are expert, you are good technically, but this doesn't necessarily mean that you are able to transfer the knowledge to people that you're talking to, be it in your domain or be it outside of your domain. Because even if you're a leader in a certain niche domain in accounting, that doesn't mean that the CEO of another company might know what you are talking about when you talk about accounting. So you have to be able also to communicate in a quite good, easy way your ideas. And around this communication also comes the skills of engaging people, taking them on board. Why? Because in these when you're a thought leader in your company, in your domain, very often you will be leading projects in that field. So you need to have people that also follow you, that people that buy into your ideas, into your thoughts. And so I think this is a skill set that you definitely develop around this, communicating to the people, engage them, and make them help you moving the projects and the thoughts that you have, the ideas that you have to move them forward. And then, of course, all these leadership parts, because if you lead projects, if you lead people, you learn everything that's around this, what was formerly called management side. So this managing a project, putting up a time frame, doing checkups, and then keeping the people in the loops, and so on. So there's like a whole bunch of different aspects that you train while expressing your leadership or your thought leadership on it. And at the same time, if you do it well, and if you leave enough room for people to challenge you, it will even help you to grow more into that role and to develop the skills even further, I believe.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I just wanted to validate with you, Claude. So if interview and you can track that number of followers and connections, size of network, it would be the proof maybe already that person definitely have those skills of impacting and influencing, right? Which would be kind of being a big plus for the candidate, right?
Yeah, no, I totally agree on that part. And if we talk about these people following you, we come also to an aspect that we discussed about before. The fact that you, while being thought leader, you create some kind of followership. So people that buy into you and that build your network, that talk about you and that talk for you. So you get less into the risk that your personal branding comes around like, I do everything, but it's more like the people say, hey, this is the guy who was leading that project, that was amazing. And this is in recruitment and in the recruitment processes, this is also something that we take in account. On the LinkedIn profiles, there is like a part where you can give references to people. And this is, I think, something that is also very important on this aspect of the leadership.
Yes, and also actually what Claude, you and Yelena were saying now, this is the answer to one of the questions that we received from somebody from the audience. When building your personal brand, how do we make sure that you won't get in a puddle with too many fish? How do you differentiate from the others? And actually here, while building your personal brand, you already differentiate yourself from others because your personal brand, it's about your professional and personal authenticity. You are different in professional and personal way. But when you come to that stage of building your thought leadership, becoming a thought leadership, that then sets you totally apart from your competence in the market. And if you think about any niche, there are actually few thought leaders in the niche. There are a lot of people who may say something, even when we check LinkedIn, people who are sharing, who are reposting, but even in accordance with the LinkedIn statistics, only 1 or maximum 2% of people who are actually posting something interesting and significant, posting their thoughts.
Like creating own content, not sharing others.
Yes, creating own content. Exactly. And when you become a thought leader, you become that one go-to expert, and you create that tipping point when you do not push, when you do not need to knock on the doors, call recruiters, contact companies, but you create that pull effect. When people start contacting you, when recruiters find you on LinkedIn because they get interested in your ideas and they know some company who actually wants to hire somebody on a senior level to their team who is a thought leader and who can bring bigger visibility to the company, because this is one of the benefits, being visible and having a powerful personal brand, because companies want people like that now. And I think Claude will agree with that, because this gives much greater visibility to the company itself. We mentioned that at different events, that people no longer follow with the same enthusiasm companies' pages, but what they follow are personal pages of companies' leaders. And maybe one more thing that I will mention about what happens when you become a thought leader, then the question of your market price increases drastically. You can set up your own rates if you are working as a consultant, for example, and if you are going to work for a company, again, you can put your own, let's say, marks on what you want to get, what salary you want to get.
Yeah. Yeah, I just want to jump in on that part of the company brand or company page versus the personal brand, because I think there is also an added value as well for the company, but also for the candidate, for the person, for the employee. It's like once you manage to build up a personal brand, you become an added value to the company. Why? Because companies more and more want to put these human aspects in front of their branding. So they stop branding about companies, they put humans in front, and they encourage them on sharing their knowledge. On LinkedIn, you have whole marketing departments now that are ready for people to help them produce their content. And so now this idea is not anymore by a big four, but by one of the consultants of the big fours with the name and the face of the person. And this is, I think, part of the company branding strategy, is to go more into this human part anymore. And if you have a strong personal brand, and I think also this kind of thought leadership skills, you're expert in your domain, you are leading, the company may be interested also to put you forward and help you build your brand, which is an added value for them, because they will get more visibility, of course, and they will have this human factor included into their branding, but also for you, because you get like a marketing department working for you, helping you building this up, and also investment from the company to build your thought leadership further up by paying you courses, by paying you classes, by paying you certifications. And on the other side also, it will, as you say, increase your market price, because you are visible, the people know you, the headhunters know you, but also the competitors of this company know you because they follow their competitors. And so you become a target. And this is, I think, at the core of our first, of the title of the webinar, there is where you take ownership of your own career. This is where you don't have to look actively anymore. This is where actually people see you and they will connect to you because you are a leader, and they may want to work with you. Maybe at the beginning just network, but if this works well, then they might naturally want you to join them in your in their company.
Yeah, and maybe to resume that all, I will just mention here that the earlier you start building your personal brand, the better it is, because it takes time. It takes time to build your personal brand, and it takes even longer time to become a thought leader. And you really need to start building those skills that will help you to get there and to differentiate yourself in the market. So we will go here and we will show you just the straight line that can help you build your personal brand and go on that path of building and becoming.
Really, how to do that
yes.
Practically. Mm-hmm.
This is our signature methodology of Top Expert Brand Accelerator of me and Elena, and these are the six proven steps that help grow your visibility and build your personal brand. As we mentioned before, it's about formulation. First, when you understand your own brand and you uncover all that you have, both personally and professionally, to pack it afterwards, it's the second step. For your target audience, to position yourself, then you benchmark yourself and select touch points where you want and need to appear to be heard by your target audience. This is about the formulation part. And then only then you go to the execution part. It's when you create and communicate the content, when you build and grow your charisma, when you focus on building networking, strategic partnerships, when you build your thought leadership. And then it's the way of scaling up your brand, which we call take up. So this way is the one that we do with our participants of the program. And this is the one that gives really results while people are already in the program. We will show you later one more slide, and you will be able to scan there the barcode to hear what people say about strategic building of personal brand when we work with them.
And so we have another question, which is already about the communication part, which is when interacting, which tone of voice to use, if there's something trendy, and being cool, honesty is the best policy, or you need to keep corporate and serious. And actually, this is the question. So when we work with people, helping them building the brand, that's what they ask the most. Once you're clear who you are, what you do, what is your approach to communicate? So should it be like Wikipedia knowledge base? Of course not, because everybody is overwhelmed. There is the amount of information, so it should be original. And I think the key word here is authentic. It should be you. What people are interested about is not kind of this encyclopedic thing or theory you can Google, like the knowledge, common sense, but your personal experience. So what is your kind of struggles when you solve this problem? How you get to the place where you are, what it means for you, what emotions are you experiencing? Is it like difficult? Are you sad? Are you failed before getting where you are? So all that human things, this is what is attractive. And of course, putting the corporate thing in terms of and Claude, maybe you can in LinkedIn, it's professional work, so not posting our own their own voice and share their authentic thoughts. What I think.
There was some problem with connection, I think, Elena. So, Claude, what do you think about this? About the way of communicating?
Yeah.
What is the trend now to get noticed by recruiters, headhunters, to get the job that you want? How you need to communicate?
I think what is the most important, as Elena already mentioned, is to be authentic. Why? It's very simple, because if you're not authentic, you cannot keep your branding over a long period. And a good recruiter or any expert in the domain or whatever will sense if you're not authentic. So just be yourself, and it can be the be cool, the more human aspect. It can be, there are people who are just more serious, more formal. That really depends. I think you have to be yourself when we talk about the tone. So I don't see any problem in making it a bit less formal, making it a bit more, easier, simpler, and not keeping it too formal. But on the other side, I think it has to reflect also your own personality. On the other side, I think what is important, or let's say trendy at the moment, or what can really be an added value, let's formulate it like this, is if you connect this theoretical knowledge, this expertise, this Wikipedia stuff that you're talking about, into concrete activities, into concrete projects that you do. And what I personally like is when I see people who deal with it in a kind of not funny but critical way, and who take it serious, and who are not afraid to say, okay, this was a project, I did it like this, I failed, but this is what I get out of it. And I see a lot of posts also like this, and honestly, I think this is where also the audience learns most out of it. instead of just saying, oh, I did this project, it went well, or I'm expert on this, but really link it to something concrete, to a project that you do, to something of your interest, and then give your own experience, make it emotional, put emotions into it, make it real, make it human. I think that's for me at least what makes it interesting to read.
Absolutely. And there is even one meme about this, that the only thing people cannot Google is your experience. And this is totally true, what we just discussed now. So here I would like, before we go to the slide about career planning and discussing that, I just want to show briefly the information about our program that we have the summer cohort that is starting on May 24th. And you see the barcode that you can scan, and you can check there the testimonials from all those people who have been with us at our programs and who have been building their personal brands and visibility and thought leadership, being assisted and supported by myself and Elena. This is the exclusive offer that we have today, only for attendees of this webinar. We will not announce it anywhere else. It's 15% discount, and then participation in a mini group in the private personal brand assessment session that will take place before the program starts. So check it out, get in touch if you have any questions. You can leave your email in the chat if you want to learn more about the program, and then we will get back to you and we'll schedule a 30 minutes call to discuss first your needs, then to check if our program will meet your needs and your goals, what you are looking for. And also we will check if you fit the group of the participants whom we get for the summer cohort, because we don't take all the participants. We only take those people who can create an amazing team, because you will need to work on your brand. It's vulnerable thing, because there is a lot of self-work, and you will need to test your messages first. And that's what we always try to create, that safe environment at all our mastermind sessions, where people can go bold, can go really vulnerable and test their messages before they go and put them out to the broader audience and get really valuable and important feedback. Because as we mentioned, we have only senior experts at our programs, so that it's valuable for all people who participate there. Just scan the barcode, check testimonials. You can apply on the website for the interview, or you can leave your email here in the chat, and we will get back to you with Elena. And here is about headhunting perspective about building a career plan. So Claude, what can you say about this?
Yeah, I think I already mentioned some of these points before. So I try to do it as short, as concise as possible. But I think the most important is, it's the same, building a brand, building a career. You should see it as a long-term project. So you need to have a long-term perspective on it. And I think this is really, really important. And in order to do so, or to be able to do that, you have to be authentic. You have to be authentic, and then link it to the third point, to your passion, to your interest, to your why. In my opinion, maybe you can give me your feedback about this too, you cannot build a career or a brand around something that you don't like or something that you don't buy into, because it is hard work. And I think it's a quote from Steve Jobs, who said, you have to love what you do, because otherwise every rational person would give up. And I think this is the most important for me. When you think about a career, you have to find a passion, the interest, your why, and then build this up in a strategic way on the long term. And this will give you a lot of confidence, because you know where you're going. You know where you're going for yourself, and you are able to explain it to your future employer, to other experts in your domain. And building a career, when you are able to explain it, you will find employers who will buy into it, who will say, okay, we have projects that are similar. Your personal brand matches with our branding. your personal project matches with our professional project. And this is where you get into an environment where you are at an added value for the company, and where the company is an added value for you. And it sounds a bit like you don't work anymore. It's like you follow your dream, you follow your passion. Of course, you will work, and there will be part of the work that you don't like that much. But the global image and the goal that you have helps you to go through all this, because yeah, it's hard work, it's long-term work, and so you need something that drives you.
This is very, very, very great comment, and we of course insist on that as well in our methodology. So I see that the time is up, so maybe for those who are here, we'll stay a bit longer. Put your questions in the chat, we'll answer them. And just to build on what you've said, Claude, about energy, to build the brand, we know it's an effort. It's not something you've done, you fill your LinkedIn profile and you don't touch it anymore. So it's a commitment. And for that, you need to be motivated. This is the first point. And second point, when you communicate, you need to communicate with energy. If I would come to the webinar and I would be so bored about this topic of personal brand, and I would start to talk like that, nobody would connect. I'm passionate about what I do, and I know that I can transmit it and kind of involve others in this conversation. So you need to have that. And it's like, I don't know, I have a lot of colleagues from procurement, because that's what is my past area of expertise. And sometimes they're struggling to find, like, procurement may look quite boring thing, but find something in it and connect with that. For example, someone would be specialized, I know, in building partnerships in procurement, not negotiating with for the cost saving, but really building win-win relations. So they become known for that. They find their passion connecting with people and really build something together. So in each area, even, you know, this accounting, finance, maybe something like classical, you can find your thing where you have, like, you know, what Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, the psychologist Claudio definitely know about. He calls it a state of flow. Mm-hmm. When you are in this zone on high challenge and maximum of your capacity, so something which is interesting for you and complex enough, when you are in this zone, then you produce your best. So our advice would be absolutely look for this sweet spot of intersection of what you can do and what you are paid for and where is your passion. In this intersection, find something which motivates you. Otherwise, the efforts would not be that efficient. This is for sure.
Yeah, totally agree.
Absolutely. So thank you very much to everybody for...
Yes, any questions? Yeah, put them in the chat. I don't see anything coming so far.
I don't see, yes, any questions. I just hear people are sharing.
Everything is clear, so you know what to do to build your brand. You can go and do that. Please, yeah, put your maybe takes away your.
Yes, what is your takeaway from today's webinar? What you will go with?
Yeah, at least one valuable piece you take with you, and what you're going to do maybe next in terms of your brands and career. Please share in the comments. Mm-hmm. And so, meantime, Claude, thank you so much for taking our invitation. I think it was really great to hear your perspective. Specifically, there are a lot of questions around how headhunters see that. Do we need to do this effort of, like, become visible and posting if it affects our job? So you just confirmed how important it is. And I think the more we go, the more it becomes important, because we are all living online now, and the recruitment processes is happening online. So if you're not visible there, then your chances are less than your counterparts who are visible and known for their expertise. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see. There is a question here, a lot of thank you notes, and the question from Aurélie, which is any advice how to build international brand versus cultural differences? And I think what Aurélie is referring to, that each country, maybe each culture have their own code of communication, what is acceptable, what is not. And if we compare states, for example, the communication is much more direct and maybe excessive for our European point of view. As European being, for example, in states, should we communicate like them or try to keep our own style? So any thoughts on that?
It's actually quite interesting question, I would say, and I may relate. I don't know if I am allowed to mention that and to do some publicity for that, but there's an interesting book by Erin Meyer, The Culture Map.
Absolutely, The Culture Map. I love the book. Yeah, very good one.
It's a great, but I think really what is important is that you clearly define the area where you want your brand to be exposed, and you have to look up if there are any specificities for that culture, for that region, and that you don't go against any social rules or whatever on this. So I think the work on defining where you want to be visible, and I think that belongs to the first part of the building your brand, defining also what channels you want to use and where you want to be visible. And then, of course, do the research on what is acceptable, socially acceptable there, and what also is, let's say, what is successful there in terms of branding, and then adapt it to this, but on the same time, being yourself, being consistent. So, it can be challenging if it goes into a larger array in terms of nationalities, in terms of cross-border or cross-cultural part. But I think it's like the art of being, staying authentic while not going against some established social rules in the cultures where you want to be visible. Not sure if that's clear, but
yes. I think you are totally right, Claude. And also, as we mentioned in the beginning with Elena, you know, when you build your personal brand and when you formulate it, it's like you are putting that foundation and the basis. And this is, to my opinion, is quite, let's say,
universal.
It's universal because we lived on different continents with Elena in different countries. You know, we did that in different languages, but all that foundation that you build about yourself, who you are, and where you want to appear and stuff like this is actually the universal thing. We could use that in Canada, we are using that in Spain, we use that in Russia, you know, so these things are universal. But then when you start communicating, if, for example, you are trying to position yourself, you are from Europe and you are trying to position yourself in the Chinese or Japanese market, perhaps there will be some cultural things you need to take into account. But again, when you come with your authenticity, when you think about thought leaders, you know, I think they don't have borders. Those are the people who are recognized experts. And if we are going in that direction of building our brands, building our visibility and becoming thought leadership within the area where we decide for ourselves, you know, this is the thing that we take into account from the very beginning. And if there is some cultural thing, okay, you learn about that cultural thing. Because, for example, I have presence also in the Spanish language market, and I have a lot of presence in Latin America as well. I have another stuff that I'm doing, another project which is in Spanish, and I'm Russian, and most of people who follow me and who contact me and with whom I work are from Latin America, though I'm Russian originally. And I live now in Spain, and I lived in, I know, US, UK, and Canada. So there is universal, let's say, foundation. And out of that, then you see if there is something different culturally.
Yeah.
And I think the more people see your personality, the easy it is to connect, because they see who you are, they see your maybe nationality, they see your values, because values is something we transmit a lot in communication. So
Yes.
when they can, and they connect with that, because the culture, you know, there are different layers. There is a country culture, but there are like personal culture, company culture. We have something we inherited from our family, from circle of friends. So there are different layers. So, and we connect sometimes really on the value basis with very different people. And if you look at like international marriage, this is it. So you take people from different countries, but then you have similar values, you look at the same direction and you connect with that. So it works like that as well in communicating in different countries. But I think it's most important to be you, because pretend to be someone, or pretend, for example, to communicate in a very American style, being European, it's energy draining. It takes a lot of efforts because it's not natural. So on the long run, it won't be sustainable, because it's just tiring and it's just not you. I think the more you stick to who you are, the better people would understand that, okay, you are different, but you're authentic, and this is what attracts them.
Yeah, I totally agree. And then, yeah, especially the last sentence that you said, I think it's like the difference in the culture that will make it interesting for the thought leaders in that domain or in that area, because actually you add also an added value with another point of view. And yeah, I think this is also a quite interesting point.
Okay. Okay, so thank you, everybody. It was a great pleasure to be here with you. So we are out of time. Again, you can reach us in social media, obviously, and specifically on LinkedIn. Please connect with us, with Claude, and we can continue our conversation online. Ask your questions, and we'll be happy to get in touch and discuss with you, maybe in individual basis. Thank you very much.
And if you have any questions also, you can always send them to us directly on LinkedIn, and we will be happy to discuss that in our posts that we do through videos, through the text that we post on social media. So get in touch. And thank you very much, Claude, for this interesting conversation.
Yes, again,
it was really a pleasure to have this webinar.
Yeah, thank you very much. It was a pleasure to be part of the discussion. I think we all could have continued for hours and hours,
3 hours.
Topic, but unfortunately we have to stop. So as you said, don't hesitate to connect, to ask further questions.
Absolutely.
If you have any, don't hesitate, or just share what you thought about the webinar. Always open for feedback. And yeah, it was a pleasure to be with you. And yeah, thank you very much for this opportunity.
Yeah, we'll stay in touch. We'll stay in touch.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, everybody. Have a great evening.
Bye-bye.